Coming up today, with the midpoint of her 5-year term approaching, President Park Geun-hye is set to address the nation on Thursday to lay out how she plans to run the country over the next 2.5 years. Hee-ho, a former First Lady of South Korea, departs for North Korea this afternoon for a humanitarian trip. There's hope her visit could improve inter-Korean relations. Plus, the top diplomats of all 6 members of the stalled multilateral talks on North Korea's denuclearization are in Malaysia for ASEAN meetings. Could the rare coming together lead to a breakthrough? Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome. It's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, August 5th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to our early morning edition of Arirang News. Fresh start, clean house seems to be President Park Geun-hye's motto as she enters the second half of her 5-year term. The president is looking to first replace senior health and welfare officials after the government came under fire for its sloppy response to the recent MERS outbreak. Chae-sun starts us off.
Announcing the nomination of a veteran medical doctor as the new health and welfare minister, President Park's office said Dr. Chung Jin-yup is expected to enhance Korea's public health care and welfare systems thanks to his diverse experiences in the medical sector. First-term ruling party lawmaker and economist Kim Hyun-suk, whose specializations in employment and welfare were also cited, has been appointed the president's senior secretary overseeing those two fields. What's interesting is that the president has selected a medical doctor to replace the current health and welfare minister who specializes in pensions. This reflects the president's recognition of the urgent need to reform and upgrade the country's healthcare system, especially in the wake of the government's failure to promptly manage the MERS outbreak. There are some thorny issues to address, however, including controversies over revisions to the national pension and health insurance systems, which may be beyond the expertise of the minister nominee. Meanwhile, as she nears the midpoint of her presidency later this month, President Park is expected to address the nation on Thursday to lay out a vision for how she plans to run the country during the remainder of her term. She is widely expected to seek public support for the 4 areas she's targeted for reform: the public sector, labor, finance, and education, and to emphasize that structural reforms are vital to job creation efforts and sustainable growth. At Tuesday's cabinet meeting, President Park talked about the so-called salary peak system of reducing salaries to hire more workers, stressing that the system is necessary to ensure everyone's coexistence and prosperity. She urged members of the older generation to give way to young people so that they too can participate in the workforce. Chae-sun, Arirang News.
Staying with political news, in Korea's main rival parties remain at loggerheads over a number of issues. These include the ongoing surveillance scandal surrounding the nation's spy agency, labour market reforms and proposals to redraw electoral districts. Park Ji-won reports.
The two main rival parties have been unable to resolve their differences over a number of pending issues, including allegations the nation's spy agency wiretapped citizens using a smartphone hacking tool that it purchased from an Italian surveillance vendor in 2012. Although the head of the National Intelligence Service said last week that the agency did not use the program to spy on citizens, the main opposition party has been pressing it to turn over related files. Against this backdrop, the ruling party urged the opposition to stop hindering intelligence-gathering activities.
The National Intelligence Service guards national security. We urge the opposition bloc to focus on activities for the public interest instead of trying to reveal national secrets.
The main opposition party said unless the spy agency submits all the requested materials, it will boycott an NIS field inspection on Thursday, where NIS engineers plan to offer their insight on the hacking software. Labor market reform is another contentious issue for the rival parties. The ruling bloc has vowed to transform Korea's rigid labor market through a number of measures, including a so-called wage peak system that aims to cut wages to hire more people. The opposition party says, however, that the government has shifted all the responsibility for the slowing economy and high youth unemployment onto the labor market.
Labor market reform cannot be achieved by the administration alone. Neither economic stimulus nor job creation are possible with the administration's conceit and self-righteousness. A social compromise is needed.
Both parties also have different views on electoral redistricting. They have agreed to keep the number of assembly seats the same at 300, but disagree about the number of proportional representatives, currently 54. The ruling party wants to reduce the number, while the opposition hopes to strengthen the representatives' role. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Korea has designated Friday, August 14th, next Friday, a temporary public holiday, creating a 3-day holiday to allow citizens more time to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japanese colonial rule. President Park Geun-hye says the extra holiday preceding Liberation Day on August 15th will help boost spirits, not to mention consumer spending, which tumbled during the recent MERS outbreak. And to encourage travel and tourism, the government will lift tolls on all expressways on Friday the 14th and offer free admission to royal palaces and museums. To attract foreign tourists, the government also plans to start the annual Korea Grand Sale event early and organize a K-pop festival in downtown Seoul. South Korea is about to begin restoring an InterKorean Railway that has not been in use since the division of the Korean peninsula in 1945. A groundbreaking ceremony will be held this morning at Cheolwon, near the border with North Korea. Around 200 people are expected to attend, including Defense Minister Han Min-gu. The 224-kilometer line opened in 1914 as a route to transport goods. Seoul's Unification Ministry says the project will reaffirm and prepare for eventual reunification of the two Koreas. It would also be instrumental in realizing President Park's vision of connecting Europe and Asia through a rail logistics network. And Arirang TV will be bringing you live coverage of this ceremony at around 11 a.m. Korea time. South Korea's former First Lady Hee-ho departs on a 4-day humanitarian trip to North Korea this afternoon, and there's hope her trip will improve strained inter-Korean ties. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The widow of former President Kim Dae-jung will travel with a 19-member delegation, and she will be in the north from Wednesday to Saturday. North Korea sent a formal invitation confirming the trip on Monday. The Kim Dae-jung Peace Center says Hee-ho is scheduled to visit several sites, including children's hospitals, orphanages, and Myeongsan, a historic Korean mountain. Now, all eyes are on whether the visit will bring about a breakthrough in inter-Korean ties. Still, it is uncertain at this point whether she will meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during her stay. And Seoul's Unification Ministry says the government will not ask the former First Lady to deliver any messages on his behalf. It also confirmed that no government officials will be part of her delegation. This is Lee's first visit to the north in over 3.5 years, when she offered her condolences to Kim Jong-un for the death of his father, Kim Jong-il. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea's foreign minister arrived in Malaysia on Tuesday to attend the ASEAN Regional Forum that will be held over the next 2 days. Upon his arrival with a delegation of other North Korean officials at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Lee Soo-young was taken through a quiet part of the airport, away from reporters, as you can see there, so he didn't make any comments to the press. The North Korean minister's visit has drawn extra attention to this year's ASEAN Forum, as there is speculation he could hold one-on-one bilateral meetings with his counterparts from China, Russia and Japan. The South Korean government has expressed a willingness to hold foreign ministerial talks with the North on the sidelines of the forum as well. That, however, appears unlikely, considering the icy state of inter-Korean relations at the moment due to Pyongyang's continued nuclear and missile threats. And South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se is also in Malaysia to attend ASEAN meetings, as well as urging North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons. Seoul has a number of other pressing issues on its plate. Han Dan reports.
The annual foreign ministers' meetings, led by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, will kick off in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. A series of talks, including the ASEAN +3 foreign ministers' meetings and the East Asia Summit foreign ministers' meeting, will be held over the course of 2 days. But the ASEAN Regional Forum is garnering the most attention, as all members of the 6-party nuclear talks will gather to discuss regional security along with 21 other partner nations. The 6-party talks, designed to denuclearize North Korea, have been stalled since 2008. The officials representing the 6-party nations are Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, and the foreign ministers of China, Japan, Russia, and North Korea. Watchers are hoping some progress can be made on the North Korean nuclear issue. The ASEAN Regional Forum is the only regional security forum in which North Korea takes part. South Korea's foreign ministry says Minister Yoon will once again urge North Korea to engage in denuclearization talks and express Seoul's will to resume inter-Korean dialogue. Another contentious issue that's not on the official agenda is the dispute over the energy-rich South China Sea. During the opening ceremony on Tuesday, Malaysia, who's hosting this year's ASEAN meetings, called for an amicable settlement of the issue.
The issue of South China Sea is a prime example. ASEAN can and should play a vital part in effecting the amicable settlement, one that respects the dignity of each nation.
During the ASEAN +3 meeting, 10 ASEAN member nations plus South Korea, China, Japan will gather to cover a wide range of topics from climate change to infectious diseases. Minister Yoon will also attend the Korea-Mekong Foreign Ministers meeting, which will focus on ways to boost cooperation between Korea and 5 nations located in the Mekong region in Southeast Asia. Those countries are Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. Han Dan, Arirang News.
Now, climate change dominated discussions on Tuesday between US President Barack Obama and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Following talks at the White House, Obama said the threat of climate change was the most pressing issue facing the United States and the United Nations. Fresh from unveiling his own plans to slash US carbon emissions, Obama also stressed the importance of negotiations in Paris later this year on a global climate change agreement. The UN chief said the meeting was extremely constructive, and he thanked the US for its continued support and leadership in tackling human rights abuses around the world. Obama, who congratulated Ban on the upcoming 70th anniversary of the United Nations, will address the UN General Assembly in September. Staying in the US, and a health alert there, New York City is dealing with a deadly outbreak of Legionnaires' disease that has prompted local health authorities to take emergency measures to tackle the situation. US media is reporting that the disease has killed 7 people, all of whom were older adults with underlying medical problems such as chronic lung disease. 86 people are so far confirmed to have been infected. There is some positive news, though, as health officials say the outbreak appears to have already reached its peak and cases will likely decline in the coming weeks. The disease, a severe kind of pneumonia, is contracted by breathing in water droplets from things like fountains, shower heads, pools or air conditioning cooling towers infected with the Legionella bacteria. Back here in Korea, and the family that controls one of the country's largest conglomerates, Lotte Group, is embroiled in an ugly fight for control of the business group. But Shin Dong-bin, who is the chairman and younger son of the group's founder, has 37 reasons to feel good about his chances of finishing up in pole position. Ji Myung-gil explains.
37 CEOs of Lotte affiliates in Seoul have officially thrown their support behind current Lotte Group chairman Shin Dong-bin.
We, the heads of the affiliates of Lotte Group, Korea's 5th largest conglomerate, give our support to the current chairman, Shin Dong-bin, as he has proven his management abilities and produced concrete results.
The statement issued by Lotte Corporation CEO No Byung-yong on Tuesday comes amid an escalating feud between Dongbin and his elder brother Dongju for control of Lotte Group. No also apologized for causing public concern about the succession battle and said he, too, felt a great sense of responsibility for the current situation. The Korean CEOs weren't the only ones to give their support to the younger son. In Japan, Lotte Holdings CEO Takayuki Tsukuda also said Tuesday that he will work with Dongbin to create synergy between business operations in the two countries. Lotte Holdings, whose shares are primarily owned by an unlisted company in Japan, controls Seoul-based Lotte Group. Shares in Lotte Group affiliates have been fluctuating in recent days as investors fidget over Lotte's governance structure and the growing management risks, as well as speculation the two sons would both seek to boost their stakes in the retail giant. Kim Young-gyun, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Have a wonderful day, and thank you as always for tuning in. And we do hope to see you at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.